Hello everyone, I'm going to begin over the subject of hypothesis testing. Now, the notes that the professor gave us already goes over this in really good detail, but I'm going to take a crack at it as well. So, let's go over to the whiteboard. So now hypothesis testing is basically checking that if we reject or don't reject HO, the null hypotheses, or H1, the alternative hypotheses. Now the way we do that is by using two methods, the p-value method or the critical value method. So let's go over to see how we do the p-value method. Now the p-value method goes like this. First step, we're going to find z using either of these formulas as shown here. Next up, we're going to be finding p using this formula, 1 minus the z value. Now notice that it's z value and not z. So, as an example, if we have a z of 1.0, we want to look through the SNCPT, or the t-table, and then we're going to look over here, and there it is, I circled it. That means our z value is going to be 0.8413. And if we plug that guy in, right there, it's going to be 1 minus 0.8413, and then our p is going to be 0.1587. So that's how we get a p. Next up, we're going to check if p is greater than alpha or p is less than alpha. Now, you can do either way, but they both tell different things, sort of. So if p is greater than alpha, then we don't reject it. If p is lesser than alpha, then we reject it. So let me show you an example. I'm going to be checking if p is greater than alpha. So, using the p that we have shown before, 0.1587, and I just grabbed this alpha out of nowhere. And then if you put both of these guys in their respective places, it's going to be 0.1587 greater than 0.10. Now we're going to check if this is correct, which is, it is correct, since 1.587 is indeed greater than 0.10, as shown by this check mark. So since this statement is true, that means we don't reject it. Next up, we're going to be using the critical value method. And the critical value method goes like this. We're going to find z first using, again, either of these two formulas. Next up, find the critical value. Now to find the critical value, it's either going to be degrees of freedom and confidence level, or degrees of freedom and the alpha. Now how that is shown is right here. It also depends on the tail. Over here on the left is degrees of freedom, and on the top right there is our alpha. And then we take those two and pinpoint an answer, in which an example is 2.764. So that's how you find critical value. Next up, we're going to make a figure. Now, let me show you what each symbol corresponds to each figure. So, if u is greater than the number, it takes the right space. If u is less than the number, it takes the left space. And if u is not equal to a number, it takes the left and right space. So, just want to get that out of the way. Now, we're going to move on to check how this can be rejected or not be rejected. So, over here, I'm going to be using green for z and pink for critical value. And I'm going to be using H1U is less than the number, which means our shaded region is going to be on the left. So the way we don't reject it is if we get a critical value and put it on the left here where we think it is, and we put it on the z. And if the z is in the outside shaded region, we don't reject it. But if z is inside the shaded region of critical value, we reject it. I'm going to give you a little bit more of a detailed explanation right now. So, I'm going to be using homework number 9's number 9, in which we get a z value of negative 1.658 and a critical value of negative 2.764. Now, also, we are using this alternative hypotheses, H1, u is less than 65. So that means we're going to the left. So, it's going to look like something like this. We're going to put the critical value where we think it is. Obviously, it's in the negative space. Negative 2.764. We make a line, and we create a shaded region. Now our z value, we're going to put where we think it is. Obviously, it's not going to be over here since it's negative 1.6. It's going to be a little bit over here on the right. So we put that there. And that means we don't reject it because it's not inside the shaded region. So we don't reject HL. And in question number 9, that means we reject H1. So with all that done, that kind of explains the two methods of trying to test hypotheses. I wish you guys a good day.